Okay, I wanted to touch this topic a little bit more. I didn't have time in the other video, okay? And I really didn't feel like dragging it somewhere else and dragging it out, so I did that before I went to work this morning, but I didn't have time to get it up, okay? So the video that you saw, my last one, okay? Woman kills husband with hammer and then marries herself. The name I gave that video. Well, this is the woman who married herself. You know, I was thinking we could promote that, that would be a good idea to marry oneself, because when you marry oneself, I mean, you know how much companionship you're going to have out of marrying oneself. You're going to have lots of companionship, You'll be talking to yourself all the time because that's your companionship. You can hold yourself at night. That's right. You can hold yourself nice and tight and cradle yourself. You can hug yourself. And you can kiss yourself, I guess, because it's part of being married to yourself. And everybody wants to say in society that one must love themselves before they can love somebody else. So what a better way to love oneself than to marry oneself, okay? You know, and just think, if you get in an argument with yourself, you could go to court and you could file for a divorce and you could divorce yourself. I really don't know how the separation part in the divorce works. I don't know if you cut yourself in half at that point. One half goes one way and the other half goes another way. I haven't quite figured that one out yet, okay? Because I understand that you might have a fight with yourself because you're divorced yourself, come on, if you're marrying yourself and you're in love with yourself, okay, then you know that when you love drama, like people love drama in today's society, that you could have drama with yourself, of course. I'm sure you'll have to hold a mirror so that you can fight with yourself, okay? But let's listen to this again because there's a few more things I want to say.
Thing. It was me standing up for myself and owning that I'm responsible for my happiness. There would have been a time I would have placed that on others to change myself to make them happy, or expecting them to change to make me happy.
Right, and I touched that part in the video this morning. There's a time where, to make herself happy, she would have had to count on she was going to change herself to make somebody else happy to make herself happy. Does that make any sense? No. Because how do you change yourself to make somebody else happy and call that making yourself happy? Okay? But the real key right here was, this is what's wrong with today's society. Let's listen to this again.
I'm happy, or expecting them to change to make me happy. And I realized that really...
Right, rather than liking somebody for who they are and not expecting them to change, or not expecting yourself to change who you are. But then here's the real catch right here. I don't know many women. I'm sure there's a few out there, okay, but I just don't know many women in today's society that will change themselves for a guy. The only women I can think of that might try to change themselves for a guy is the gold diggers. The ones chasing fame and lots of money. Now, them women, they might want to try to change themselves, which, of course, trying to change oneself means you're going to try to be somebody you're not be yourself, okay? In most cases, that's what that means. I'm not talking about one changing oneself as far as a bad habit, like smoking cigarettes or overweight and losing weight or whatever, and bad habits, One changes themselves like in losing weight, okay, for an example. First, one might want to change them. They want to change that about themselves. They're not going to change that about somebody else telling them to change that. Because you don't take weight off if you have a weight issue for somebody else. You do it for yourself and yourself only. Okay? Because when you do it for somebody else, you're not doing it for the right reason, for one. Okay? It needs to be because of yourself. But let's go on here.
Working. Not at all. I was very unhappy, and I started discovering that love I need, it's in here. No one else can give it to me.
So, but, okay, I get that. But why have like a ceremony and bring in people to marry yourself in front of other people?
Well, because she wanted to have this elaborate marriage, to herself. Okay? Because she wanted everybody to know that how much in love with herself she was. Okay? And that when you're in love with oneself, that You're happy with inside because you have all the companionship in the world, because you can walk down the street talking to yourself. You can hold your own hand walking down the street. You can hold yourself arm in arm. Of course, that'll be an interesting trick.
What was the thinking there?
It was about really committing to changing my life. It's been a wonderful journey so far. I don't ever want to stop that. I feel very empowered, very happy, very joyful.
Right, she feels very empowered. You hear that? Empowered. That's right.
Yes, I wanted to share that with people, and also the people that were in attendance. It's a form of accountability. If they, my friend Jen that I brought with.
Accountability. I don't know too many women in society that take accountability for their own actions.
Me today. She's the first one to say to me, you need to go back and read your vows. You're worrying about what other people think, or you're in somebody else's business.
There was part of me.
Right. You need to go back and change your vows to yourself because you got your nose in somebody else's crack. That's right. You're worried about what they're doing and you're busy dictating their lives. Sounds like typical in today's society, don't it?
When I read the articles about this, I wondered, was this just about getting attention? Were you trying to get attention?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely so. This is where she lied to you. Okay? I mean, that's a bold-faced lie. For one, she marries herself and she makes sure invites a bunch of people, her friends and stuff, to be there for her to marry herself. And then she's going to tell you it's not about attention, huh? Lie.
I'm responsible for my own happiness. I did this to celebrate the progress I've made in my life. 6 years ago, I would have handled a problem by going out and drinking. I smoked. I was 50 pounds overweight. This is just celebrating how far I've come in my life.
Okay, yes. But you know, I figured she married herself, and for all of you people out there that say that you must love yourself before you can love somebody else, she has the right idea in today's society. Because if you marry yourself, you'll never be lonely. Okay? You'll have all the companionship you need. You know? I find it a little complicated, though, sometimes because, you know, you got to figure that you might want to lay down at night and watch a movie with yourself. You might want to hold yourself in your own arms. That should be interesting, okay? Yes, to hold yourself in your own arms, okay? You might want to have a conversation with yourself, you know. And, of course, then you'll have to be talking to yourself. And, you know, and, of course, you know, if you don't know an answer to something and you ask yourself a question and then suddenly you have the answer that you didn't know, now you've met the definition of crazy. So I really don't know how this works, but man, I'm telling you, it'll save you a lot of money because just think, when you marry oneself, you're so in love with yourself. That's right, with yourself. And in today's society, everybody is all about themselves. Nobody gives a shit about anybody else. It's all about ourselves. So since it is all about ourselves in today's society and this world's gone to hell in a handbasket, I guess you might just well marry yourselves, right? And then we have this Nagina right here. I showed you him this morning too. He's telling you why women cheat, okay? And of course, you know, he's passing the buck and flipping around and he's justifying a woman's reasons for cheating. And I don't hear anybody up here on national TV justifying a man's reasons for cheating, to give you justified reasons, to give you cop-outs, okay? To make it sound, it's okay that you cheat, because this is really what he's doing, but he's not doing this for men, he's doing this for women. Well, that's because he's a vagina. But this right here is what I want you to hear.
Dr. Drew, is that the key to a great relationship is meeting each other's needs, which doesn't necessarily mean doing the exact same thing. I kind of agree, actually, with your guest that, like, if a woman wants to talk a lot and be heard, I'm more than willing to sit and listen to her because that's what she needs.
Right.
Right. Okay, now this is what I wanted to point out. If a woman wants to talk a lot, in other words, she wants to be heard, she's having a hard time, you know, and she needs some emotional support. She calmly, normally, in today's society, will use the nice guy for her emotional support. during her breakup with her bad boy. And then as soon as she's figured out her emotional support, then she dumps you on your ass and runs back to the bad boy because you're not good enough to be with, because you're just a nice guy and you're there for emotional support. And then the other flaw is here is, see, he's more than willing to listen to her. Listen to her, that's right, and support her. How many women out there are more than willing to listen to a guy and support a guy? As much as I hate to say this, not all women, of course, I've got to specify that so that you'd understand I'm not talking about all women. But once again, the majority, which is no lie, it's fact, okay? The majority of women, when it comes to the other way around, you know, you want to talk, you got some problems, and you want to tell her, and you want some support from her, and, well, that's because you're weak. It's because you're whining. It's because you're bitching. It's because you're just a loser, okay? Yes, this is the label that's thrown on the guys. So, you know, and I've seen this so many times in real life, this is exactly what happens, okay?
I think women really only cheat for two reasons, married women. Generally because either they have deep-seated emotional issues they're trying to work out, maybe a sex abuse history, something like that, or because they're deeply unhappy with the relationship that they're in.
Right, sex abuse history, right. That's typical, right. Of course, who's the one that abused her? Who's the one that abused her? That's right, ain't that right, Nagina?
And usually it's like a way of maybe acting out their unhappiness before they're willing to maybe admit it to themselves or admit it publicly.
Yeah, of course, then he said they're unhappy in the relationship they're in. And that's 90% of the people today because they got into a relationship without knowing each other to begin with because you couldn't become friends. I mean, just friends. I mean, we reject that. I mean, that's a rejection line nowadays, isn't it? Okay, we can just be friends. This is a rejection line used commonly by women in today's society.
Unless the woman is, you know, has some issue or is crazy, there's generally a lot of preceding steps before she goes out and starts cheating.
All right, let's
Right, there's a lot of preceding steps, like she gets hit on, and 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 she's horny, and this guy has more money than the guy at home, and this guy looks a little better, looks a little fun to undress him. I haven't undressed him and felt his dick in my hole yet. Yeah. There's a lot of preceding steps here, okay? Yes. It's really hard, you know, when you're hit on and you're hit on and you're hit on. And, yeah. And this guy here might be famous and your husband at home ain't. That's right. This guy here might make 4 times the amount your husband does, yeah. It's a lot of preceding steps here.
Fucking crazy, because I don't want to just let that lie as a term that sounds so pejorative.
When you see a woman who is extremely promiscuous, however you want to define promiscuous, you know, in her social circle, any sort of extreme behavior like that is usually some way of sort of acting out, recreating the trauma, or trying to fill the void that, you know, an absence or some sort of other trauma created.
Right, trauma created by society, right? Trying to fill the void, trying to fit in. That's right. Trying to pretend that you're a woman and women don't really like sex. It's men that always want sex. Men, not women. Right? And so for you, all you guys out there that think that's true, why don't you go ahead and turn her down the next time she wants sex and see how she acts when you reject her for sex? I don't think it'll go over too well. Why? Because that's a lie. But of course, I wouldn't expect anything else out of a vagina's mouth.
Being crazy in a bad sense. I just mean she has emotional issues that she hasn't worked out. Someone hurt her in some way, and she's trying.
Right, some guy hurt her in some way. Right. Of course, she had nothing to do with it. You know, it was all him. You know, because he's a monster. He's a villain. Right. And it don't take 2 to fight. I said that earlier. We all know that it only takes 1 to fight.